I really want to meet feminists who are in relationships with men, whether that's marriage or dating, because a lot of times, I'm very naive. In my feminism journey, I've always assumed that all the women around me are also feminists. And then when I find out that they're not, I'm just shocked. Or when I find out that women are dating men who are openly misogynistic, I get very shocked. But it's like, this isn't shocking. I'm kind of just naive to assume that all women are feminists, so that's my fault. But the reason why I want to meet feminists who are in relationships with men is because I really want to know their perspectives. So many women I know settle for misogynistic men because there's kind of like this narrative that there's no hope. There's no man out there who's doing the work. And I just really want to know, like, what are the non-negotiables? What are those things that, like, what are those red flags, those immediate red flags? Because I feel like I have my list, but I'm just intrigued to hear from women who are more experienced in dating, to hear their experience.
Hey beautiful people, how you all doing today? It's your girl Maria Davids, and I am back again with another interesting video. So she's asking that what are the non-negotiable when it comes to having a relationship with a man? If you're a feminist woman, what are the non-negotiable? So if you have your own non-negotiable, can you put it down in the comment section? But then I have interesting stitches to share with you all. Then at the end of all the stitches, I will share my own opinion.
The non-negotiables. What are those things that, what are those red flags, those immediate red flags?
Okay, I feel qualified to answer this as a feminist who is engaged to a man who I feel very strongly is worth being married to. And after experiencing dating men who are very openly misogynistic, these are my green flag, red flag guidelines. Number one, most important, he needs to be obsessed with you, and not obsessed with the way that you make him feel or the way that you look, but like obsessed with you as a person, who you are. That is not negotiable. That is necessary. Two, I never really hear anyone say this, but he needs to think that you're funny. Misogynistic men make it like their personality that they don't think women are funny. Women are funny, and your man should think you are hilarious. Three, he's emotionally intelligent. Bonus points if he's an emotional person, like cries, is not afraid of showing emotion. That is huge green flag. Your friends should feel at ease and like comfortable around this man. They should like want him to be around. Of course, not like every time the girls are hanging out, but they should want him to be around. You should get to be a little bit mean to him at sometimes, and it doesn't faze him, and he doesn't get to be a little bit mean back in the same way, because we live in a patriarchy. It's not the same thing. He should do labor without you having to like consistently nag and like force him to do it. It should be something that like as an adult he can just like clean and cook and help out with things. Red flags, if he refers to women as females, no. If he refers to any exes he has ever had as crazy or psycho, no. Immediately red flag. Probably not true. If he raises his voice at you, red flag. If when you like bring up something that bothered you, or like you're kind of having an issue, if he whatabouts you, like you bring up something that bothered you and he says, what about this? What about this? In a way to like come back at you. Once it starts, it will never end. The what about is a huge red flag. If he does or likes pranks, no matter how trivial and small, no. If he is rude to service workers or homeless people, red flag. If you feel you have to like water down your feminism at all because you're worried about his reaction being negative, red flag. If anything he does compels you to make a pro-con list, no. I used to facilitate these like healthy relationship workshops in college for undergrads, and we would do this activity where you would like put onto paper in quadrants like what you're looking for, the qualities you're looking for in a partner, to like help you navigate. And I've helped like many of my friends break up with partners with this activity. Let me know if you want an example.
I really want to meet feminists who are in relationships with men.
So that creator goes on to say that she perceives that a lot of women who date men have to settle for a lot of misogyny or patriarchal thinking. And so she's asking feminists who are in relationships with men, what are those red flags? How do you avoid that situation? And until I met my boyfriend, I was really prepared to settle. I really thought, like this creator did, that that's what I was going to have to do. But so instead of the red flags, I can give you a bunch of the green flags I saw in my partner. First, his default is almost always gender neutral language until he understands from a personal perspective the gender of the person he's talking to or about. His Instagram bio is a link to his sister's business, which is focused on Black maternal health. He cries all the time. Always says women, and this is one of my pet peeves. People will be like, oh, the girls in the office, as though they're children. No, the women in the office, and he always says women. Whenever I've expressed excitement about losing weight, he's been supportive, but he's also been very clear that he does not assign positive value to my body being smaller. In fact, he treats my body like it is the most powerful, beautiful, magical vessel, and really encourages me to do the same. He never talks bad about his exes, never. When we first started talking, he started telling me about how he was getting into astrology. And I don't mean that astrology itself is a green flag, but getting into something that so many men shame women for enjoying and then openly telling a woman you just met about that, green flag. He carries my things for me, and not out of like a weird sense of chivalry, but because he doesn't want me to be burdened if I don't have to be. And my comfort is his priority, and it's obvious every single day. He loves women rappers, loves them. He tells me about what happens in his therapy sessions. Of course, not everything, because that's deeply unproductive, but he tells me about the realizations he's proud of or the things that he knows that I can help support him on. And most importantly, he has never acted like he was done. He has never acted like he has gotten rid of all of the misogyny and all of the patriarchy that we were all raised with. He acts like the work is work. He asks questions, and he's constantly trying to get better, and that's the biggest green flag you can see.
I really want to meet feminists who are in relationships with men, whether that's marriage.
Hi, I've been married to a man for 10 years tomorrow. And before him, every single other guy I dated was a misogynistic piece of shit. Except one. Because I wasn't always a feminist. But as I've learned, grown, and gotten older, I now proudly say that I am. So these would be my non-negotiables if I were going out into the world to find a man in the wild. Having a healthy relationship with their mother. Not too close, not completely resentful and distant, somewhere in the middle. Be willing to talk to women that you have no interest in having sex with. My husband is able to socialize with women in the same way that he socializes with men. A lot of men see interactions with women as a means to an end. And if there's no opportunity there, they won't hold the conversation. My husband's also the most emotionally intelligent man I've ever met. He's able to name and work through his emotions in a healthy way. He also doesn't have this gaggle of bros. And he doesn't have any friends that are misogynistic openly. When being in a couple, a lot of it is the company you keep. This was so hard to get into a minute.
The reason why I want to meet feminists who are in relationships with men is because I really want to know their perspective.
She goes on to say that she wants to hear the criteria and the non-negotiables from feminists who are in relationships with men. And I feel especially qualified to speak on this because not only do I think my boyfriend is the most perfect man to ever exist, but so do all of my friends and family. Number one, above all else, my boyfriend is pro-choice. That didn't even need to be a discussion or an argument. It's the bare fucking minimum. And that's that. But beyond that, he was entirely raised by women. So he has this inherent understanding and love and sympathetic nature towards women and their struggles. And I can't even begin to explain how important that is to have in a man. I've never once seen him be disrespectful to women, whether that's his mom or to me or even his ex. I've never heard him say the word crazy or bitch. And that is super, super important to me. I can go on and on about how incredible I think my boyfriend is, but one of the biggest green flags was that all of his friends and all of the men in his family were just as good as he is. If your man has some questionable friends, it's probably because he shares some sort of similar belief system as them. It is 2023. I can promise you, you do not need to be dating these misogynistic ass bitches.
I really want to meet feminists who are in relationships with men. Whether that's marriage.
I've been married for almost 14 years to a man who considered himself a feminist before we met. It is probably the most important thing about my relationship. I would tell any young woman who is considering getting married to a man, having kids with a man, being a feminist has to be a non-negotiable. Because as you get older, especially if you get married and have kids, and studies bear this out, it becomes so easy to fall into traditional gender norms, to those sexist stereotypes, because of how culturally ingrained they are, and because the world around you sort of pushes you in that direction. Having a feminist spouse means that you can recognize that together, you can have conversations about that, you don't have to do a feminism 101 to make him understand. It is vital. It is vital to your life's happiness. Trust me.
I really want to meet feminists who are in relationships with men.
Oh, I have a lot of non-negotiables. 1, has to have female friends. Because first of all, it just doesn't bode well for me if you only see women as objects of desire and don't see them as people who you can have fun with, who are worth spending time with, who are worth getting advice from. But also, second of all, you gain so much perspective from having female friends in your life. If they date men, you can see the shit men put them through and understand what not to do. And more broadly, it can contextualize for you why something matters to me beyond me just saying that it does. 2, this is similar to the last one, but he has to have an appreciation for the feminine. My husband, for example, listened to Taylor Swift's entire catalog with me and discussed the evolution of her music, her lyricism, the instrumentation, her vocals, all of that, and ranked his preferences. He always has a female artist or a female-led band in his top 5 on Spotify every year. If my friend at a weekend away suggests painting his nails, he's down. He doesn't care. He doesn't find being feminine for himself or anyone else something that makes you inferior, or doesn't think about it as an insult. And he's always willing to engage with femininity on an intellectual level. 3, speaking of the intellectual level, he has to be willing to be informed. I asked my husband to read Know My Name by Chanel Miller, and he did, no questions asked, and loved it. And he read Educated by Tara Westover without me asking. He just proactively read it and then recommended it to me. He also proactively listened to the audiobook by Aubrey Gordon called What We Don't Talk About When We Talk About Fat. He is genuinely interested in the world being a better place for people in bodies like mine, and he's willing to do the work to figure out how to make that happen. 4, he has to say he's a feminist. He can't shy away from that word or ask, well, what does it really mean, or add caveats. He has to be able to say that. 5, they have to vote. In local elections, national, everything, have to vote. 6, believe women. And that sounds like the big deal stuff, but it's also the little deal stuff. If I say that one of his friends is a dick to women, that has to carry weight. The rebuttal can never be, oh, well, he's nice to me. Yeah, because you have a penis. He's awful to women. That has to matter. You have to believe me that he is not a good person. 7, no fake feminism. And by that I mean no equal rights, equal fights, or we should split the bill 50-50 if you're such a feminist. Well, if I'm discriminated against in our pay and there's a massive pay gap and my life is more expensive because conditions of mine are going undiagnosed and I'm spinning my wheels, and there's the pink tax in general for feminine targeted products, then no, I'm not paying 50-50. And the last one that will fit in this 3-minute video is obviously chores. I never had to ask my husband to do chores. I don't know if it's because he grew up with a mom who worked in addition to his dad, or if it's that his dad cooked every meal, but he has to want to proactively do the chores just as much as I do, and not just allow me to do them all or ask him to do what needs to be done. Let me know if you want a part 2.
What are those red flags, those immediate red flags? Because I feel like I have my list, but I'm just intrigued.
Here's some red flags that I learned the hard way, meaning I thought that they were minor and inconsequential, and then they later turned out to be indicative of patriarchal behavior in relationships. Number 1, whatever their thing is it books, is it movies, is it music, ask him who their favorite authors, musicians, actors, writers are. If it's all men or even 80% men, red flag. The art we engage with informs our worldview and also our capacity for empathy. So if you only expose yourself to the worldview or experience of people exactly like you, you are going to have a hard time empathizing. So if you're a man who only listens to music by other men, you probably, number 1, don't have a whole lot of respect for women. But number 2, you definitely are going to have a difficult time understanding women. Red flag number 2 is an inability to take accountability for any part in the failure of your previous relationships. I saw a TikTok recently and I forgot who made it, but he was talking about how men use relationships with women as sort of stepping stones. So if a woman complains of a behavior within the relationship, the man will often not change it because he doesn't want to admit that he was wrong, and instead he'll find a new partner and he'll do it better for her, but he's doing it off of the back and the emotional labor of his prior partner without ever having to admit to either one of them that he was doing something wrong in the first place. So I had a romantic encounter with someone recently and I asked him why his last relationship ended, and every reason that he gave me had something to do with her. He was too savvy to straight up blame her. He was just feigning ignorance, He was like, oh, well, I don't know. Some days she just said I was being a jerk. And I was like, well, what would make her say that? And he picks out the most extreme examples of her being irrational, which are probably her 2 worst days in the relationship. And I kept pressing him. I kept saying, well, what were her frequent
complaints in the relationship. What were her complaints about the relationship? He's like, I don't know. Maybe like we didn't spend enough time together. I don't know. Some generic bullshit, you know? Every person participates in the failure of their relationships. And if you cannot articulate what you contributed to that failure, absolute red flag. And my third red flag might be a little bit unpopular, but I'm going to say it. Men who are always in relationships or men who are never in relationships. The latter group seems pretty obvious, right? Like, somehow this guy made it to 40 and he's never had a relationship longer than 6 months. Everybody knows why that's a red flag, right? But those damn serial monogamists are just as bad. They are codependent and they usually see women as replaceable objects of service. If a man doesn't take any time after a relationship to figure out what he contributed to its failure and to heal from it and to grieve that relationship, he primarily sees women as replaceable service providers. I will never again date a serial monogamist. I won't date anybody who's been single for less than a year.
All right, if you're still here, kindly put your thoughts about this video down in the comment section. Any opinion is accepted if you put them down respectfully. To be honest, I really don't have much to say on this video. I really don't have much to say, but I would like to hear from you all down in the comment section. Kindly put your thoughts down in the comment section. I will be there reading your comments. Thank you all so much for sticking around to this point. I will see you all in my next video. Bye.